Well, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Bas Kamphuis. I'm the General Manager for the SAP partnership at Amazon Web Services. And with me are two close friends from Capgemini that I will allow to introduce themselves. Charlie, are you online?
Yes, hi, good morning, Bas. My name is Charlie Lee, everyone, and I'm the Chief Cloud Officer for Capgemini in the North American markets. I'm responsible for all of our cloud services. And thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Jason?
Hey, good afternoon, Bas. Jason Hatch with Capgemini. I run our Cloud Architecture and Solutions group here in North America. I've been working with SAP for about 17 years now and AWS since 2010. Very happy to be talking to you all today.
Fantastic. So we have an exciting agenda for you guys today, specifically diving a little bit deeper on SAP workloads on AWS and obviously the implementation and management services that Capgemini actually has purpose-built around it to accelerate customers' journey to the hyperscale cloud. So just as a bit of a backdrop, it's been an exciting number of years now in working with SAP as well as with Capgemini. We've seen tons of customer momentum, just reflecting a little bit on the announcement we made at Sapphire and since then. As of last week, AWS is now able to support 4 terabyte scale-up workloads for HANA specifically, and scaling out for analytical environments up to 34 terabytes and even beyond. We have some fantastic customer adoption and customers reaping the benefits of that hyperscale cloud proposition, and we'll go deeper into what that proposition is. But customers like British Petroleum or Lockheed Martin or Zappos as an online retailer having a completely different perspective on what infrastructure means in terms of enabling their digital transformation. At Sapphire, we also announced that the SAP Cloud Platform is available to run on AWS, and obviously that creates an ability to start adding and extending SAP solutions with much greater ease. So we're very happy with that. We also start certifying and enabling industry-specific adoption of SAP workloads. So for the healthcare and life science customer base, there is now full GXP support in terms of certification. And then at about a month, 2 months ago, we also start extending the AWS proposition to the newer SAP portfolio. So Hybris, for instance, is now fully certified to run on Amazon's Aurora database, dramatically reducing the cost of ownership there. But the topic today is more around a concept called FAST, an offering that we're working hard on with Capgemini and SAP to put into the market to dramatically ease the ability to experience the net new HANA solutions. So as I wrap up this introduction, we'll go to a bit of an adoption roadmap. Jason will take us through that. The common questions that customers have as they contemplate this conversion to HANA and how they think about infrastructure. Some resources, some ideas to get started, and then specifically why Capgemini differentiates itself specifically to enable these transformations to SAP on AWS. As indicated by Jeff, we'll have some room at the back end to answer your questions, so feel free to answer the questions in the Q&A box, and we're looking forward to the discussion there. Jason, handing it back to you.
Hey, Bas, thank you. Let me first kick off by saying that cloud adoption has been going strong for several years now. And I think most of you know that in the first wave of adoption, we mostly saw test and dev of non-critical applications. Really, over the last 18 months, we have seen a huge shift of mass migrations to the cloud due to a lot of the rapid advancement of the AWS platform. And we see a lot of our clients now closing down their data centers, getting out of the proverbial data center business and going cloud first, or in some cases, cloud only. And then now we're finally seeing that third shift of truly complex enterprise workloads to the cloud, like SAP. And some of the things that the Bas already mentioned, specifically announced at reInvent last year, as well as at Sapphire this year, is the increased capacity, if you will, and the ability to perform for SAP on the AWS platform. Boz mentioned 4 terabyte, upper end limits for SAP HANA support, and also I believe there's a roadmap to even go higher than that, to something like 16 terabytes for single node, which is really tremendous. And I think that puts a vast majority of the SAP install base in the realm of possibility in taking advantage of the overall cloud, the benefits of the cloud, if you will, for SAP. So we have already helped several early adopters go through this SAP shift to the cloud, and we believe that the time is now for a much larger market to take advantage of the benefits of SAP HANA on AWS, given a lot of the advancements. In terms of the adoption roadmap, here's what we typically see. We see that technical migration, after a fairly robust planning and strategy phase to help migrate SAP, your existing SAP, into kind of the new HANA platform on AWS. We see a kind of a phase where, once the migration happens, then we start to generally simplify, your custom code in SAP. We look at business improvements, really getting it ready for the eventual migration or upgrade to S/4HANA. And then, of course, depending on the modules that you're using, you would then think about, migrating and maturing into S/4HANA, and then finally, really taking advantage of all the next generation cloud platforms. Boz mentioned the HANA cloud platform, being able to write cloud native applications on top of the SAP ecosystem. I think that's what we see as the typical, adoption roadmap. Obviously, SAP is not as simple as test dev or some of the non-critical applications. So as you're going through this process, you probably have several questions that you want to think about. Obviously, one is, what are the real benefits other than just the basic cost takeout? When is the right time to really do this? And obviously, we believe it's now, given all of the hurdles of taking advantage of the cloud has now been removed by the collaboration of AWS, SAP, and Capgemini. What are the true benefits outside of cost takeout? Do you really have a business case, based on the industry you're in and the sizing of your SAP install? We've actually worked with several clients where, in the past where there was not a business case, but now there is, right? So how do you really do a business case? How do you really prove to yourself that there's real benefit? Given that you have a complex landscape, where do you actually even start? How do you even do this, right? We all know that SAP is a monster. It touches so many different applications. How do we do this without breaking dependencies or whatnot? And finally, is S/4HANA the right fit on AWS for us? What is the roadmap? Should we do it now? Should we do it later? Should we wait on SAP to be fully ready? And then finally, what is the overall cloud strategy, right? How does this fit into your overall cloud strategy? So a lot of difficult questions to think about as you start thinking about taking advantage of the AWS cloud for SAP. So with that, we have one of our top architects on the line, Jason Hatch, and Jason will walk us through kind of how to think about doing this the right way, the first time around, and how to answer some of these difficult questions in a very, very complex application landscape. Jason?
Great, thank you, Charlie. So, guys, when we talk to customers about SAP and how they transform that roadmap and how they transform SAP or migrate SAP to the cloud, which is something we're discussing daily with our customers, really the first thing that we start that conversation is, where do you want to go? As Charlie said, we really have two paths. There's that, I understand HANA's the roadmap. HANA is the future platform for SAP overall as a database. In-memory capability provides us with tremendous performance, real-time reporting capabilities, and changes to how we interact with our information within the SAP ecosystem. But the other aspect of that is, do I continue on my existing version and platform of ECC, or do I go to S4? Do I start taking advantage of the new business processes that are being rolled out and deployed by by SAP, and what's the right way to do that? It's a complicated decision, right? There are numerous deployment models, financial models, licensing models that we have to consider, and that's on top of all the really important aspects of the functionality and impact to the day-to-day business operations of our users in our organization. So we've developed a process, our approach within Capgemini called our Highway to S4 roadmap that we've come out with. And in this roadmap, we're really focused on four key things. One, evaluating and showcasing the business value of the S4 platform. What am I getting by making this major change? Helping our customers ensure that it's the right time for them to move on to S4. I mean, we know from a support and a licensing and a maintenance perspective, at some point, everyone will need to move to S4, but when's the right time for you as an organization to do this? And then once that decision's made, making sure our customers are successful in their adoption of the S4 platform, both from a time, the ability to migrate and convert very quickly is essential to making sure this is successful. That drives both business value and cost control, which is a major element of this, and also quality of adoption, making sure that users are able to do what they need to do on the new platform, and also continue to enhance and improve the business processes of their company. And then finally, making sure that we're accelerating this journey by bringing the right methodologies, best-in-class tools, and resources. With all journeys, all of them start with a first step. And in this journey, we believe the first step really is an assessment of your platform to quickly understand the impact, benefits, and change in effort of moving to S4. So during this assessment, we focus on 4 areas. How we scan and evaluate your existing environment to understand your code and existing business processes. How we evaluate those processes against what is available in S4, both today and what's part of that roadmap going forward. I mean, SAP has streamlined so many business processes, and more just interestingly, the underlying data model in S4. So what you're used to doing today and what data your impact or you're inputting into the system does change, and we need to understand that up front. And then also making sure, and this is what we're going to talk about this a little while with the FAST program, is giving you an opportunity during the assessment phase to touch and experience a live system, both going through that migration process so you understand the risk reduction that we're able to do, seeing the value and the speed of being able to do that on a cloud platform such as Amazon Web Services, and then also evaluating some of the impact of that conversion and testing it. What code needs to go away, what needs to be remediated, and what am I getting out of the box? And then finally making sure, validating in the last part of this, that this is the right time, choice, and you're going to get the business benefit of going to S4 at this time. If we have customers that we'll do this assessment and process with, guys, that honestly, it may not be the right time from functionality that's available right now, or where they are in their internal business process and cycles to do this. The wonderful thing is that we've got a great fallback approach that allows us to leverage S4 and the performance benefits by then saying, well, let's stay on ECC 6.0 or upgrade to Suite on HANA, and then continue to migrate over to that platform on Amazon and get the performance benefits, increased operational reporting, and business process enhancement without having to go through the major transformation of going to S4. So for this assessment phase, this assessment process, we take a very agile, very rapid-based approach to going through this. It starts off with our prep phase. Believe it or not, not every SAP company out there or user out there really has had experience working in an agile environment if you're coming from an SAP waterfall-based methodology. So the first thing we want to do is set up that process with our customers. So, confirming the team, understanding what the guiding principles and approach for using agile methodologies, developing that backlog, and then setting up the schedule and approach for for each of these sprints. Sprint 1, as I said, is focused on that scan and assessment area. So we're going to define the level 1 processes for each area of your business. Do some initial analysis on your code base. Start collecting data on your custom code that will need to be either remediated or replaced as we go forward. And also then defining that current state architecture and understanding not just your SAP components, but everything else in that ecosystem that will need to be evaluated. So your interfaces, your bolt-on components, all the pieces that are there. Phase 2 is then taking all that and all the information that we've gathered in that first phase and doing the gap analysis between what you're doing today and how you're doing it and what's available to you in S4. Some of the functionality and processes will be enabled as part of S4 in that new roadmap. Some of it will be, those applications will be replaced by other areas of the SAP ecosystem. You look at Hybris, as Baz talked to, that's now running on the Aurora database, and all the other components around SAP in the new model that they've defined for digital enablement. So it's not just. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you, Jason.
Sorry. So it's not just your SAP core systems, but it's the entire peripheral and support model around SAP. And then finally, that third sprint is focused on testing that conversion to S4 or testing that migration to the Suite on HANA platform on AWS. And Baz is going to talk about that a little later today, but it is really developing that migration plan, that approach for the migration, the schedule to do that, and then conducting that fast, rapid migration test so we're able to provide you with a system to evaluate both performance, new business functionality, and also the changes in impact that of your code base and processes that we'll have to go through to make that happen. And then finally, the fourth phase of this is building the business case and the benefits, the future state technical architecture, and also the roadmap and plan for follow-on blueprinting and implementation phases. In order to do something like this in 6 to 8 to 10 weeks, we've built a lot of accelerators and capabilities into our assessment approach. And this is really what I find interesting of how we go about this process. So in that phase 1 sprint, or that sprint 1 where we're doing current state analysis of your environment, we really focus on 2 areas: evaluating your code base and evaluating your existing business processes. So for evaluating your existing business processes, we use a tool called Celonis Business Process Miner, or Deep Process Miner, which is actually, it's powered by the SAP HANA database. That's the underlying collection engine for this tool. And what it does is it analyzes the transactional data that you're generating in your environment, and it develops a set of process flows and analyses that allows us to visualize what you're running in your environment. So what business processes you're using, where inefficiencies are in those business processes, and also what is standard functionality out of SAP and what's been customized. So we're able to, using this tool, update or confirm the documentation that you have. What we found is a lot of customers, may have started out with great documentation on the business processes and functions that they've configured in SAP, but over time, either that hasn't been maintained as processes have been changed, or as things have been enhanced and extended beyond SAP, we find gaps in that process. So by able to run the discovery tools up front on what you're doing, we're able to get and confirm that end-to-end process tree of what you're running in the system. Second part of that is evaluating your customization and code. So as part of any evaluation of S4, we need to look at the customizations you've done in your system. The data structure, as I said, in S4 is very different. So some of the customizations you've done won't be compliant with S4's structure, and some hopefully, or many hopefully, will not be needed because they've been replaced by standard functionality or is something that will identify that you can greatly benefit by optimizing when you move to the S4 platform. Capgemini has developed 2 tools and capabilities to support this. One is eCart, which is one of our proprietary tools for custom code analysis and remediation. So we're able to, it's a rule-based platform. So what we're able to do is take SAP's standard rule base for simplification. So what they've developed to evaluate systems against S4, along with some additional industry-specific rule bases that we've developed as part of Capgemini to evaluate against. And what we are able to do is we look at all your customized code, and we look at it both from compatibility with the S4 platform, and also for items that are not compatible, we're able to evaluate the complexity of what that remediation should be, if it's something that needs to be remediated, or if it's something that it needs to be replaced going forward. And in many cases, our tool is able to actually do that auto remediation for you. So when we go through our evaluation or our test conversion, anything that can be auto remediated, we can do up front, and allows you for a much more complete evaluation of the S4 platform as part of the fast migration. And then finally in Sprint 2, 2 things I want to talk about from an acceleration program. One, we've got all this information, both from a code perspective and a business process perspective, that we've gathered and evaluated in Sprint 1. And now we're going to compare that against not only SAP's S4 process maps and roadmap, so what's been developed, what's standardized, and what's coming in the future, to define that gap analysis and the gaps between your existing processes and what's available. But also Capgemini has developed a number, about 25 specific industry-specific solutions, which we call our one-path deployment model. So these are SAP certified SAP certified solutions that run on S4. So we've taken the SAP best practices, enhanced them with Capgemini's best practices with what's available on S4. And we've created a reference system that you can look at and see to evaluate what's different and what those processes are. And then what we've also done is extended it for your industry based on gaps in the current SAP process roadmap, with what we think are the right tools or the best tools to meet that additional functionality and processes for your specific industry. So many customers will deploy that as a separate solution, but for our assessments and evaluation phase here, what we do is use that as a reference architecture, so you can see those end-to-end processes and see them in a test system before we go on to the exciting part here that Baz is going to talk about, when we actually use the AWS Migration Test program to test and evaluate your system and environment on a live S4 system on AWS.
Okay, thank you, Jason. So then let's talk a little bit more about what that fast capability is, right? So as Jason discussed, there's a number of tools, and the key to all of it is automation. And what we've done together with SAP in this case, I presume most of the people on the call are familiar with this. There's the data migration option tool that has been around for many, many years. And it was designed to, between two on-prem appliances or infrastructure setups, to not only migrate a SAP workload, but to upgrade it in the process as well. And the DMO tool facilitated a number of sources to a number of targets, anywhere ranging from an ASE upgrade to a Suite on HANA and an S4 HANA. The problem that the tool had is that it was tightly integrated. So the target and the source system needed to be co-located. And obviously the data as it was written needed to get a confirmation that the upgrade worked successfully or roll back if needed. What we've done in this case is to actually make this a two-step process. And the two-step progress is hugely enabling. What is happening with the DMO tool is that it can take any productive SAP solution, anywhere, I believe, up from a 4.6C system. So most of the customers are at least at base level. And basically extract the entire system and highly compress it in step one. And then what we do with AWS is we define a target solution. As said, you're an ASE in the Suite on HANA, or in the case we're talking about today, an S4 target system on a correct enhancement pack. And we actually take that system and not only migrate it to the AWS cloud, but upgrade it as well. Everything, as said, highly automated and very, very beneficial. Jason, can I ask you to move one slide back? Now, what that allows us to do, due to the automation that we apply here, is to take an average system and basically migrate and convert it to HANA in less than 48 hours for a Suite on HANA, and less than a week for an S4 HANA, as well as for a cost that is often below $1,000. And I'll explain the cost a little bit there as well. But the power of that solution is that what we're trying to enable is that there's no more analysis needed. There's actually an experience type of approach, right? So any customer that wants to know what the business case is of converting to S4HANA now can actually take their productive solution and after a week conduct a month-end close process and see where the speed increases actually really start mattering. Or you can do your MRP runs or your ATP checks and actually see what the difference is from running that on the new target solution. And so what we've seen is a dramatic reduction in the time it takes, right? Take the example of I'm really not quite sure once I migrate and convert my Oracle-based ECC system to S4HANA, what the size of that S4HANA system is going to be. Right, there's sizing reports, and we have several examples of customers that have a sizing report and discovered that they needed a 1.6 terabyte or a 2.6 terabyte HANA system, only to go through this actual exercise and discover that they were fitting within 1 terabyte. Now, obviously, in a normal infrastructure scenario, these are big impacts, because at that point in time, you either bought too much hardware or created too big of a hosting contract with whomever was hosting the solution, because half of the system is not being utilized. In AWS's case, that's just a failover to a smaller instance that can be executed within 10 to 15 minutes, and you reduce the cost of your infrastructure by half. But that experience provides so many answers that you typically would have spent weeks of analyzing and running several reports to kind of predict what the future should look like, and now just actually seeing it for yourself and getting business users involved in testing the solution. So it also reduces, obviously, because it's all automated, significantly the project cost, and it reduces the test cycles. Because once you're on that hyperscale cloud provision, cloud infrastructure that allows you to clone systems, copy systems, and shut them back down, right? The AWS commitment is the on-demand provisioning of infrastructure, and that used to be done by the hour, and this week I believe we announced that we even can bill now by the second. the long-term risk of making the wrong choice is completely eliminated. There is no long-term commitment required from our customers. It's really a try as you go and experience the solution. So if we go to the next slide, Jason, that means that the entire evaluation of what that digital core transformation or the digital transformation as such needs to look like becomes much simplified. For $1,000, being able to upgrade a system, and obviously there's additional cost involved, but that makes it within the decision power of a VP of infrastructure and SAP practice owners to say, we're just going to try this and get smart. Now, the decision to do a real productive migration is obviously a bigger decision, and you get back into the CIO-sponsored realm again. But from there, you can actually get these business process users, the stakeholders, a real flavor of what the to-be state of the IT landscape is going to be, allowing you to address gaps or assess additional things that need to be happening in terms of code mitigation, as Jason alluded to, and then you go to the business owner sponsorship, like kind of that board level approval if you decide to take that transformation all the way up. It's a very, very different way of going at it than where we've had to be in the past, where there's a significant capital investment required to even do the proof of concept. And that changes the game dramatically for the customers that we've been working with. Jason, if you wouldn't mind flipping the slide. So a little bit more about AWS, right? As you kind of think through the value proposition, because of the infrastructure being all software defined and automated, and now with the introduction of the 4 terabyte system or the 34 terabyte system scale out, the technical limits are no longer there. SAP customers for the first time get to actually take the cloud attributes all the way to mission critical solutions. The provisioning of a 2 terabyte HANA system is about half an hour. It obviously can scale significantly in both scale up and scale out. And there's now, and I think this has been really rapidly growing over the last 2 years, a tremendous amount of expertise out there in how you get these tasks rapidly done. As AWS, obviously our true north and biggest priority is security. So you can rest assured that many of the Fortune 50 customers have actually made this journey as well and are able to provide extremely secure and hardened environments, including high availability and disaster recovery. And then the economics. An hour of a 2 terabyte box is somewhere in the $13.50 roam, right? So which is where if you can actually migrate and test this transformation in a 48-hour exercise, that's where you end up with that $1,000 comment that I made just now. But the pricing options from there actually become dramatic. If you sign up for a year-long commitment or a 3-year-long commitment, we actually reduce that price even by 72%. So think about a HANA system becoming in underneath $4 and being actually a short-term commitment. All those typical capital layouts and all that investment that needs to get justified before you do a proof of concept is no longer a requirement, and you can actually just get going on it. Many customers have gone here before. I alluded already to British Petroleum. Zappos is a very interesting client. It's also an AWS or an Amazon subsidiary. They actually were part of the early test and adoption of the FAST methodology. They actually migrated their productive 92 percentile size Oracle-based solution. So this is a significant single instance ECC system. They actually went through this FAST exercise in 29 hours. And for them, that is the example I was alluding to in terms of discovering the size. They thought they needed a 1.6 terabyte system. And once they went through this exercise, they discovered they only ended up with a 650 gigabyte system. And so they basically filled over from a 2 terabyte infrastructure solution to a 1 terabyte infrastructure solution. But at that point in time, immediately reducing their budget required for this transformation by 50% when it comes to infrastructure cost. So these are very powerful examples, and we hear them every day from the customers we serve, that the hyperscale cloud is actually driving a very different mindset as to how you think about these mission critical SAP transformations. Jason, back to you.
And just to follow up on that theme and that mindset change, as we've gone through with our customers and helping them on this journey to SAP on AWS, just a couple examples of what we've seen. As Baz explained, the cost model, per hour and now per second is a dramatic way to manage and pull levers to manage the economics of your environment. And as we all know, SAP, typically pretty hardware intensive, but also very environmentally intensive. So if you look at a typical customer that's running SAP, there could be 3, if you're running N+1, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 different landscapes that are part of your environment. Unless you're in the middle of an implementation or an upgrade, it's highly unlikely that you're using all of those all the time. So when we work with our customers and start defining the business case and the model for how to run SAP on the cloud, one of the things that we do is we set guidelines and recommendations of really how long, what's the model for when and how often you should be running all these different landscapes, based on where you are in your deployment life cycle, what you're doing in that environment. We work with our customers to drop those runtimes down dramatically. We just did analysis across all of our customers running SAP on AWS, and for non-production systems, we actually think the average or the mean runtime for those environments when they're being used is about 245 hours a month, based on some of the logging and the access that we're able to see in those environments, which is only about a third. It's just over a third of the time. So what we've done is we've put a lot of our customers on a schedule where they're adopting what we call the 5x18 model. So Monday through Friday, depending on where you are and the window is, run those environments for about 18 hours a day. That drops your model down, that drops your environmental usage and consumption costs down by 50%. If you're then able to get to this 250 hours that we're seeing most customers be around, you're now at a 1/3 model, and you're reducing your consumption cost and your runtime cost by 66%, which is a tremendous cost reduction that we're seeing. The other part of this is this mindset change and the ability to now look at scaling up and scaling out your environment to accomplish different tasks. We had a customer that we've just gone live with a HANA environment on AWS, and they've decided to expand their rollout globally, which is very exciting. But they were faced with a challenge where they needed to train 2,000 resources in a very short period of time. And their training landscape, their environment had data that allows them to train about 100 resources concurrently. And this wasn't going to fit their requirements and needs and their time frame. So rather than go through the process of creating all this additional training data in their system, we actually clone their training environment 5 times. So when they need to do this mass training in this training schedule, we scale out their environments, 5 times, 5 separate environments based on if they're just doing, a single deployment in a single training class. And we're able to actually articulate to the project management team and the steering committee the cost benefits of doing this as opposed to the labor and time of actually creating all that additional training data. So you're actually changing the mindset and approach of how you execute SAP implementations based on the flexibility and capabilities of the cloud platform. So how does Capgemini align with this? We've alluded to a couple things of how we manage the model and help you manage your consumption and get there. But one of the things we do with our managed services platform and our cloud implementation capabilities that we've built on top of AWS is really work to align our support, our management services and capabilities with the consumption model that is part of the cloud platform. So it's predictable, it's scalable. So if you're not running something, if we work with you to shut down some of these environments so you're not using them, or they're idle in the cloud, any support or services that we're providing for that, we're also able to idle as well. So our support, our services, our capabilities around your SAP environment scale and contract with how you're consuming the cloud services. This is done by something that's called Capgemini's CCMP, Capgemini Cloud Management Platform. So we've taken the capabilities of capabilities that AWS has provided, and then we've taken all the processes and support models that you need to run and operate this platform and built them, enhanced them and built them out around that. So it's an end-to-end managed services platform where we're able to provide the day-to-day operational support you need, the upfront provisioning capabilities and automation to launch all these things, and then finally the financial management and reporting to ensure that you're optimizing your usage and spend of the platform. And we've been doing this with AWS for a long time. I did my first SAP migration to Amazon in 2011, and we haven't slowed down since then. We're one of only 3 or 4 companies out there right now that are AWS Premier Partners, AWS Migration Competency Certified Partners, AWS SAP Competency Certified Partners, and as well as also AWS Managed Services Providers and resellers. So we've got all the aspects and all the capabilities and competencies that you require and need to run successfully on Amazon's platform with us. And as I said, we've been doing this for quite some time. So we started doing work with Amazon in 2008, really way pre-VPC, when the platform was really in its infant state. As long as they've had a partnership program, we've been in that highest level of premier partnership. And we've really built a team focused around delivering cloud services on top of AWS. So in addition to our MSP team that runs our run and managed services components, we have teams dedicated to doing migrations, both SAP and non-SAP, on top of AWS, as well as a team focused on emerging technologies such as cloud native development, AI, big data, and automation on top of AWS's platform and leveraging their services. And that group, it really continues to grow. We've trained 1,000 people in 2016, and based on the numbers I saw just the other day, we're close to doubling that number for 2017. So it's an exciting time to be working with AWS and working with our customers to adapt this technology and capabilities. So in addition to our AWS knowledge and experience, we are also a very experienced SAP practitioner worldwide. We have almost 18,000 people who work on SAP. As I've said, we've generated, or we've developed more industry-specific solutions certified than SAP than any partner out there with our One Path program. And also, we're very happy and proud to say that in 2017, we were SAP's Customer Choice Partner of the Year. So we, as I've said, we've worked very closely with SAP and AWS on this process, and you know, we're proud to be partnering and working with them, and we're also proud that they've recognized that our contributions and partnership as well. I think with that, guys, we're going to go to any questions in the Q&A phase that are out there. Boz, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. So exciting times. We have a number of questions submitted, but for anybody that's online that has a question, please submit them, and we'll get to them to the best of our ability. If nothing else, we'll get back to you direct as well. So one of the questions is that came in was the question of, okay, so I'm running on a 2 terabyte HANA instance as a reserved instance, which is basically the 1 year or the 3 year reservation of that infrastructure. Do I still have room to move either up or down and reap the financial benefits of doing so? And the answer is absolutely. The reserved instances within a family are completely transferable. So yes, that is the agility, but also the flexibility in pricing that you get on AWS. Jason, question for you. Within the methodology that Capgemini is deploying, there's been a bit of talk around all the automation that's being applied. What are the 3 big innovations that Capgemini and AWS are introducing here from your perspective?
Yeah, to me, the first one is the automated code remediation. So our eCarts platform that we've developed, we're able to very quickly assess that code base, banging up against the rules engine for S4. And then in many cases, auto-remediate a lot of those functions. The second part of it, I think, is around the migration itself. So leveraging the best practices that we've developed jointly around, you know, SAP's DMO to cloud capabilities and technology to move customers over and ensure we do that in a predictable and timely manner from a migration perspective. I'd say is probably the second great innovation that we've collaborated on. And then the third one would be on some of the ongoing operations and the automation of how we manage that SAP environment or HANA environment on the AWS platform going forward to ensure that you know, we're able to manage it and operate it in the most efficient and flexible manner there is.
Very good. I got a question here. In which regions is the infrastructure available on AWS? So the X1 up to 2 terabytes is available in 14 out of our 16 regions. So pretty much very broad coverage with the X1. The net new introduction of X1E last week is available in every major region on AWS. We're covering EMEA, the Americas, as well as APAC. Within that, generally one region is supporting it right now, or we'll be expanding from there. Question here, how is the AWS infrastructure as a service offering compared to SAP's public cloud offerings? And I think that's a super interesting question. Jason, I'll take a stab at it. Maybe you have some thoughts there as well. So the SAP public cloud offerings is a broad portfolio. Obviously, there's the cloud assets with the Concur, Fieldglass, that are direct software as a service offerings and which fall in that public cloud offering as well. Then we have the platform as a service in the SAP Cloud Platform, which can get hosted on AWS, and then there's infrastructure as a service. There is basically two solutions there, and they blur the lines a little bit. There's the S4 HANA Cloud Edition, which is basically a build for public cloud consumption of S4 HANA. But it comes with a couple of benefits as well as trade-offs, right? It's a highly rationalized version of S4 that cannot be upgraded to. You would have to implement on that. But then you get all the benefits of a SaaS platform where SAP takes significant accountability for the upgradability and the servicing of that platform. There is HANA Enterprise Cloud, which is basically a offering that offers application management service specific to HANA for SAP HANA deployments. That is blended between public cloud. We're one of the service providers that enables HEC deployments, but also private cloud environments through other partners, as well as SAP's own data centers. To me, the big differentiation on all of this is basically the self-service model and the highly automated and virtualized environments that the public scale cloud offerings are presenting, and that ability to actually obtain significant HANA infrastructure at an hourly increment at a greatly reduced cost. For most of the offerings, they require long-term commitments, partly in order to secure the investment, obviously. But yeah, if you want flexibility, agility, and speed, I'd strongly encourage you to look at the hyperscale cloud options, the public cloud options that are available. For the more predictable and stable deployments with specific requirements, private cloud or a hosting solution could be an option. Jason, any thoughts there?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that, Boz, is, I mean, rather than evaluate the technology and the platforms, I think, for our customers, when we talk to them, it's what do you need from an SLA perspective? What do you need from a performance perspective? What type of model do you want to consume in leveraging SAP? And then we can help map them or guide them to the proper deployment model. I mean, certainly from a hardware IaaS perspective, right, as one of the underlying partners for both the SAP Cloud Platform and HANA Enterprise Cloud, the hyperscaler capabilities of Amazon are wonderful from both a performance and also a flexibility perspective.
Jason, question for you. Does Capgemini provide any project management capabilities that can work with our teams?
Absolutely. So in addition to our technical services and our SAP implementation services, we're an end-to-end service provider. So project management, business analysts, and business process reengineering are part of the tool chain and the capabilities that we provide our customers.
Very good. And I'll take one more question because we're running out of time. The question is, how are we handling system copies and system refreshes within AWS? So this is one of the things that why we're so excited about FAST, because we want our customers to obviously experience the power here, but because everything is automated and there's a delineation of storage and backup over obviously live systems, the ability to do a system refresh or a clone is within minutes or within the half hour that I alluded to. And it's very, very easy to use an image of your productive solution or a test solution and clone it and bring it back up. And this is one of the benefits that with Capgemini that's fully embedded. Think about how you used to run to a system integration test or final business process regression test on your way to a productive go live of an SAP solution. With this near infinite scale in infrastructure at a moment's notice, it is very possible now that there's still one team, be it for example, the people that are testing the payroll functionality or testing the finances, to keep running in an existing system and to get a second copy of the system available to a different part of the project team that is starting to test net new introductions that come through these correction transport systems. So all that is highly automated. You get a console in which you make these decisions. You shut systems down. You can create additional systems temporarily to facilitate that acceleration of the project timeline. And some of that is actually alluded in that FAST methodology, that there's a significant reduction of time spent because you're no longer waiting for infrastructure to be ready for you. It's always available, can always scale up, can always scale down. And with that, we reached the top of the hour. So there's some questions that we didn't get to. We will get to you in email and answer them directly. I certainly want to thank our friends at Capgemini for being with us today. I believe we've unlifted some of the capabilities of Capgemini, but also SAP deployments on the AWS cloud. We're super excited to work with you guys, so reach out to me or Jason or Charlie if you have any further questions.